Hey, Jay here. We got our latest project bike. If your bike looks like this, I'm really sorry that we can't take care of yours, but we got this one we're going to fix up right now. It's a 2005 KTM EXC. So this was a really good trail bike back in 2005, and she's been pretty beat up in this case now. So we're going to go through this thing, pull the engine out, split the cases, put a new hot rods crankshaft, Vertex piston. Going to check the cylinder to see if it needs to be replated or not. Hopefully not. And while we get it down to the frame, we're going to send the frame off to get powder coated. We'll do a new cool orange so it looks really updated. We'll also, at the same time, go through the suspension, update anything else that we need to along the way. You might want to, as you're going about, take notes of any parts that you need as you're taking this thing apart, and that's what we're going to do right now. So the pipe on this bike was extremely worked. You can see we got a hole here, just dented up. Really beat, cracked mount, very common. Also the mount on the frame that's rubber mounted, we'll need to get one of those pieces for here as well. Our radiators aren't too bad, a little bit bent. Since we're gonna have all new tank and shrouds, we're gonna get these things fixed so they line up nicely. We're gonna send them to ICW and he'll straighten these things out and weld and gusset them up. Okay, so we've got it all stripped down. We took the races out of here for the steering stem. That's very important to take those out. A good powder coating shop will tape everything off, put inserts in each of the holes. If you don't have a shop that's familiar with motorcycle frames, you might want to put some old bolts in all of your holes. So otherwise you're going to be tapping these holes and having problems. So this frame's good to go. We're going to get it to our San Diego powder coatings, the one we use out here. We're going to get it to them and get back on this project. Hey, Jay here. We're back with our latest project. A really fun deal. We've been working on it over the last 3 months maybe. It's been a little while. Take our time. We got lots of stuff going on, so I find it's best to not stress out and try to do it really quickly. Been a really fun build. KTM's catching on now, of course. See them all over off-road. We're going to show you everything we did to this thing right now. We stripped this thing down to the bare frame, and we took this frame down to San Diego powder coating. It's good if you have a local powder coater in your area that they know how to do frames, that they cover up the threaded holes, block off any critical points, so you don't have to sand spots like for your grounds or where your swing arm comes into the frame. They block all that stuff off. They know how to do motocross frames, so make sure you look for that in a powder coater. So while that was off, getting done, we took the suspension to factory connection and had them freshen it up. Just freshen it up and set it up for our weight and skill level for the trails. There wasn't any serious damage to the suspension, it just all needed to be freshened up and gone through. The motor was actually pretty similar, not anything drastically worn out. The cylinder was still in pretty good shape, so we put a new Vertex piston in there. In the motor, the clutch was actually still really good, so we just put a new clutch plates and springs and an outer cover from Henson. Internally in the engine, we went with a new hot rods crankshaft, rebalanced by Crankworks in Arizona, and they change the balance factor of the crank so that the bike doesn't vibrate as much, which is really nice in these 300s so that you just don't vibrate yourself to death on the thing. For performance mods, the only thing we really did is we added the V-Force reed cage and the FMF pipe and silencer. We used the E-line carbon fiber for protection of this nice FMF pipe. A Cypress skid plate that we modified off of a newer bike is what we used for our frame and engine protection down low. IMS makes some good products. We have their foot pegs on here and their oversized fuel tank. Stock tank was pretty beat. Also, this has a lot larger capacity for longer rides. The Tuss brake pedal, really nice piece, bolts right up, simple, looks awesome, and works perfect. We have a set of the new Cycra Ultra Pro Bend handguards. These are brand new, a really updated version of their old handguard that everybody was used to running. The things are really nice, bolt up easily, give you a lot of options for fitment. We went with the Renthal 604 Fat Bar Bend. We hooked up the Trail Tech headlight. We didn't upgrade the stator, so this thing's just a lower output, but we were able to wire this in with the stock setup. On these older KTMs, the front fender can bounce around a lot, so we brace it with this plastic piece from KTM, which really helps keeping your front fender strong there. Cycra also has some updated fork guards that give this thing a newer look up front as well. Attack made us some custom graphics for Dirt Bike Magazine for this build. Look really sharp. Get everybody that helped us with the project on there. Moto Seat freshened up our seat for us. Put us on a brand new cover with pleats on it. We have some good grip on the trail. So up front on the brakes in this thing, we went with the Tusk oversized front rotor, and that's matched up to their brake line. The front brake line was a pretty beat up, the stock one. So we have the Tusk brake line, oversized front rotor, gives us great stopping power to an already strong KTM front brake. For the front tire, we went with the Dunlop AT81, and we're on the Tusk Impact rim. We actually just relaced the stock. Hubs were still in great shape, so we just buffed them out, put on new rims and spokes, and we have some brand new looking hoops on this thing. So we have our Tusk rear rotor with our Renthal twin ring sprocket. We had to buy a few KTM stock parts for this thing that were beat up, so we have new axle for the front and rear were pretty beat up and worn out. So we got new axle nuts as well. Trail Tech also has a kickstand for this bike, a really nice upgrade. The stock one was really beat up in this case, so it was a nice improvement. As with about any old bike we go to rebuild, it's very common that the radiators are pretty beat up. That's just a common deal, and radiators have gotten very expensive over the last few years. ICW rebuilt ours. They just straighten them out, brace them up, and then they're actually better than new, and for a fraction of the cost. So it's a pretty good deal to just rebuild your old radiators if you can. So to keep good dirt out of this thing, we're using the Uni air filter. Works really well, two-stage filter, stopping all of our dirt out, and that's well oiled. The Tusk shifter looks amazing and works well on this bike. For the rear drive of this thing, we have the primary drive O-ring chain, which is really strong, made it up to the Renthal twin ring sprocket. That with our TM Designs chain slider and rear block provide good durability for this trail bike. Hey, so that's about it for our dirt bike project. KTM 300, really cool bike as you can see. Don't expect you guys to do all these things, a lot of money here, but you can do parts of this at one time. Some of it you can't afford to do it all at once, but you can see what parts you can do on your rebuild of your KTM or other bike. Some great companies to work with on your rebuild right here.